So the title of this is Split the Middle with a Little Bit More. So if we take a look at this first problem, factoring x squared minus 4x minus 32, we've done problems like this. This is a split the middle. And when we split the middle, we're going to look at the factors of 32 because it's going to be 1 times 32, which is 32. And the factors of 32 are 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. And what we're looking for is we're looking for what combines to be 4, either adding or subtracting. And we know from here that if we do 4 minus 8, we can split the middle. So we've got x squared plus 4x minus 8x minus 32. And we're going to group here and here. If we take a look at the grouping, then what happens is that in our first group, the greatest common factor is an x, the lowest exponent. X squared divided by x is x. 4x divided by x is 4. Be careful here, there's a minus in between there. I want to highlight that with a different color. But the greatest common factor is 8. Technically, it's negative 8. Negative 8x divided by negative 8 is x. Negative 32 divided by negative 8 is 4. And now what we see is we've got x plus 4 in each group. And then x minus 8. And we factored. But again, the title is Split the Middle with a Little Bit More. So what happens if we change that last question just slightly to x to the 4th minus 4x squared minus 32? And the thing is, we're still gonna split the middle on this one, but be careful, it's x to the 4th. So when we do this, we're splitting the middle, the factor's still 1 times 32, which is 32, and then the same things happen here. We've got 1 times 32, we've got 2 times 16, we've got 4 times 8, and will any of those factors combine to be 4? Again, just like the last one, it's going to be 4 minus 8. And as I write this problem down, x to the 4th minus 4x squared minus 32. What happens is then when we split the middle, we're writing the x to the 4th, we're writing the minus 32. But when we split the middle here, what's going to happen is that this is going to become plus 4x squared minus 8x squared. Remember, the middle term, 4x squared, so our middle that we're splitting has to have that same variable. And once we do that, then everything else becomes the same, because what happens then for our grouping is here's our group and here's our group. But in this particular case, we get x squared. Again, the lowest exponent. If you look up above, it's almost going to be the same. We had 4x's, we took out 2, we've got 2. We had 2x's, we took them out. We've got x squared plus 4. Again, highlighting the fact that there's a minus in here, but when we factor out our greatest common factor, it's still an 8, but then what we're left with is negative 8x squared divided by 8 is x squared. Negative 32 divided by negative 8 is positive 4. And then when we factor, we've got x squared plus 4, and then x squared minus 8. So let's take a look now. Now that we've seen one, let's try to factor x to the 4th minus x squared minus 30. So we're going to split the middle. 1 times 30 is 30. So it's 1 and 30. 2 and 15. 3 and 10. and 5 and 6. And we're looking for what's going to combine to be 1, the coefficient on the x squared. And we know the only way we're going to get 1 is here. In fact, it's going to be -1. It has to be 5 minus 6. And again, when we split the middle, it's x to the 4th minus 30. And then it's going to be plus 5x squared minus 6x squared. Again, let me remind you, because the middle term here, I'm going to highlight it, because this term here is an x squared, these terms have to be x squareds. But now we can group. Here's a group, here's a group. And what we have is the greatest common factor is x squared. And then we had 4 x's, we took out 2. Here's 2. We had 2 x's, we took them out. Watch out once again for that minus sign. Greatest common factor in this next group is 6, technically -6. -6x squared divided by -6 is x squared. -30 divided by -6 is +5. And then we've got an x plus 5 and an x plus 5 in each group, x squared plus 5 in each group, and then x squared minus 6. The thing is, when we go to the next one here, we've got a number in front of the x to the 4th, but it's still going to be a split the middle kind of problem. And when we split the middle here, we're going to take, if I can get the color right, we're going to take the 3 times the 5. This is where the 15 is going to come from. And the factors of 15 are 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. And we're looking for what's going to combine to be 8. And what we know here in this particular problem is that 3 and 5 are going to combine to be 8. And in fact, we're going to add. It's nice that they're all pluses in this problem. And it's 3x to the 4th plus 5. And then when we split the middle, it's plus 3x squared, because the middle is a squared, plus 5x squared. And then we've got our groups. And the greatest common factor in the first group is not only x squared, the lowest exponent, but this time we've got the 3. When we factored out, 3 divided by 3 is 1. X to the 4th divided by x squared is x squared. We had 4 x's, we took out 2, we still have 2. Over here, 3x squared divided by 3x squared is 1. Then in our next group, greatest common factor is 5. 5x squared divided by 5 is x squared. 5 divided by 5 is 1. I didn't say it on the last parentheses, but we have to write that 1 when we're factoring. And what we have is we have x squared plus 1 in each group. So when we factor that out to finish, we've got x squared plus 1 times the 3x squared plus 5. By the way, it doesn't have to be in that order. Maybe you changed up the order a little bit. You could end up with 3x squared plus 5 times x squared plus 1. Both of those are the same thing. As we finish, one more here. Again, it's going to be a split the middle type of problem. We've got a little bit bigger numbers, but what we're really trying to pay attention to is the fact that there's an x to the 4th in this problem. And as we take a look at that, when we're splitting the middle here, 10 times 18 is 180. And I'll highlight that again so you can see where that's coming from. The 10 and the 18 here. 10 times 18 is 180. And then the factors of 180 are 1 and 180, 2 and 90, 3 and 60, 4 and 45. We're trying to figure out what combines to be 27. We haven't found it yet. 5 and 36, 6 and 30, 9 and 20, 10 and 18. Still haven't found it, but here it comes. The 12 and the 15 is what's going to work for us. And in fact, what we have to do is we have to end up with negative 27. So this is going to be negative 12 and negative 15. But we're splitting the middle, and the middle term has an x squared in it. So when we work with this, we've got 10x to the fourth, and we've got 18. And then it's going to be minus 12x squared minus 15x squared. By the way, you could have had minus 15x squared first and minus 12x squared second. It won't make any difference. Here's your group. Here's your group. And when we look for the greatest common factor in the first group, the biggest number that divides into both 10 and 12 is 2. And our lowest exponent is x squared. And when we factor that out, 10 divided by 2 is 5. We had 4 x's, we took out 2, so we have 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. We had 2 x's, we took them out. Once again, watch out for that fact that there's a minus there. The greatest common factor between 15 and 18 is 3. It's the biggest number that divides into both. And when we divide, negative 15 divided by negative 3 is 5x squared. Positive 18 divided by negative 3 is negative 6. And then we can look at here at our factoring. To finish, we've got 5x squared minus 6 and 2x squared minus 3.